I'll put him in a bridle here in about another month or two. I'll ride him in a one-handed bridle, okay, shank bit. He's not quite ready for it just yet, but he's getting there. Now I'm working on his hip a little bit. I want to put that outside leg on and have his hip move to the inside. Pick him up. There, I felt that hip move a little bit to the inside. Pick him up. I raise this inside hand up to it just picks that inside shoulder up, and it just, I don't know what it does, it just gets him a lot broker in the face. Especially when I'm working on that hip. When I eventually ride him one hand, I might pick my hand up like that and press with my outside leg, so I'm kind of preparing him for that ahead of time. But eventually, I want to turn him loose like this, and he maintains that shape. Lost a little shape just then. Let's try that again. Right then, that was more my fault than his. I let him get too slow when I first asked him to change leads. I let him get too slow. And he he farted around and he kind of half dropped to a trot, it felt like, and he just didn't have his head in the game. So I picked up the lead again, sped him up, then changed, and he did better that time. So I'm gonna take the blame for that, not him. You know, if you remember yesterday when I rode him and filmed him, he kicked out of my leg and told me to go screw myself. So that was quite a bit better. Soften him, pick him up, move his shoulders over, turn him loose, pick him up, get that chin to soften to the inside. I do a lot of picking him up and making that chin come to the inside, using my legs, and then turning him loose. Picking him up, turning him loose. Picking him up, turn him loose. Until he just gets to where he'll let me handle him without any resistance. Dare him to get out of shape. So you notice that I don't like to just always left circles, right circles. I kind of mix it up a lot on the horse so that they're never quite sure what I'm about to do. I think a lot of times, especially with real intelligent horses, they kind of start cheating you because they know what you're going to do before you do it, and they start using that against you. I want my horses to be almost surprised with what I'm going to do. Not in a confidence like they're surprised and they lose their confidence, but like, oh man, I didn't see that coming, and it keeps them guessing, okay? Do a lot of counter cantering, okay? I've got my right leg on now, sitting on my right butt cheek, loping. I'm gonna speed him up just a little bit, like he's anticipating that then. Just, yeah, big clumsy bastard. Just then, he changed leads by himself, and I'm not gonna let him do that. He's thinking about the lean change, so now I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna take him back this way and say, don't worry about that. I'm not gonna change leads. Then I'm gonna come back and say, oh, maybe I will change leads. Set him up, set him up, set him up, set him up for the lead change. It's just messing with you. I don't really want to change. change, change, change. Driving, 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 driving. Forward, 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 forward. Forward, forward, forward. The only negative to these gunners is that they're typically not great moving horses. He's pretty good. I wouldn't say Titan's the best mover I've ever seen, but he's certainly better than most gunners, okay? And the bad moving horses, and especially when they're lazy, and a lot of the gunners dream about sleeping, they can have trouble changing leads. They can have trouble changing leads just because they don't want to drive up underneath themselves. And I can feel a little bit of that in him. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Good boy. So that lead change was better. So I'm getting ready to stop. I got 4 lead changes today. Pretty good. So his lead changes today were considerably better than yesterday. Yesterday he kicked up at my leg and said, "Hey Clinton, I hope you die in your sleep," and he had an attitude. Today he changed leads a lot better. So I think I changed 4 times today. Wasn't perfect anytime he changed leads, but he got better. So we just chip away at it, chip away at it, chip away at it. Again, he's had 6.5 months of riding. I don't expect him to be changing like he will be in another year from now. Foundation, foundation, foundation. Here's the secret to lead changes. Tinker with it, let it happen. If you try to make lead changes happen and you really work on them, like every day you work and work and work, the horse just gets more wound up, more upset, more frightened that you're a predator. It's kind of like I tell my students, when you've got a horse with a bad ear problem, like maybe somebody's twitched his left ear where they've twisted it to give him medicine or wormer or vaccination. When you've got a horse that's really head shy, the more you try to work on that head shy issue, the more weirded out the horse gets. But if you just tinker with it, I just get my hand up around their ear and play around with it for a few minutes, and I'll go off and do this, and I'll come back and do it again, and then go off and do it. When you just tinker with it 3 or 4 times in a training session like that, after a week, the problem's gone. They're no longer ear shy. But when you say, "You are gonna get this right now, and I've got to get this bridle on by tomorrow because the owner's gonna show up," bad deal. That's kind of what lead changes are. When you say you are going to change leads, "I got a horse show coming up in 2 weeks, we better start friggin' changing leads real good," it will never happen. I'm picturing I'm going to change leads in a horse show till like in 2 years from now. It won't be that long, but I pretend it's going to be that long. The reason why I do that is it makes me relax and just kind of tinker with it. Take the stress of it away. I remember as a young apprentice when I worked for Gordon McKinley, starting colts and fixing problem horses in Australia, he would always he'd see me struggling with a horse and I'm working on something and getting pissed off and upset because I'm not getting the results I want. And he'd say, "Clinton, quit working on that horse." And he said, "You're making an issue of it." And I'd get frustrated and I said, "Well, how am I supposed to fix it if I never work on it? You're telling me I'm making an issue of it, and how am I supposed to fix it if I never work on it?" And all he would say to me is, "Just don't make an issue of it." Gordon was a great horseman, but he wasn't the greatest communicator. He was a very talented horseman, but he wasn't the greatest communicator. What he was really trying to tell me is this: "Clinton, just tinker with it." When I say the word tinker, most people think of fart around, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You're not nervous tinkering, are you? You're, in fact, anything but nervous. You're relaxed, you're happy, you go with the flow. What he was trying to tell me is, "Clinton, work on the problem, but just stick around with it and make a little improvement every day, and after a week or 2, the problem's solved. But you're trying to make a big deal of it now and fix it in 24 hours. And horses are like women. The more you think they're going to do something, you want them to do something, they just do the friggin' opposite, okay? So you just gotta mind play them on the deal. Simple as that, okay? You just gotta let it become their idea. So that's what lead changes are like. Just tinker with it. So when I started tinkering with problems rather than trying to fix it, my horses got relaxed, they got quiet, and they started doing really well, okay? I have not been able to master this technique with women. I'll be perfectly honest about that, okay? But I've given it a fair shot, but I'm still pretty bad with it. Whoa. Good boy. I love it how he just backed up by himself. Help him a little here. You get a little better attitude today, don't you, big fella? Okay? Yesterday he kicked out at my leg and hoped I'd die in my sleep, and today he's back to being a good boy again, okay? So right now, his air is important to him. So I'm going to head over to our spot and let him get his air for a few minutes. Remember, rest is a motivator. That's the in and out gate over there. So if I rest him over there, he'll absolutely lean at the gate. Okay? Letting him rest over here will counterbalance that magnet for him to get back to where he gets tied up and all his friends are. Very important air to a horse. When horses get out of air, that's when they get hurt the most. So when Titan got done with his circling, he needed me to let him air up 5 to 10 minutes. It's a pretty cool day today, so the colder it is, obviously it doesn't take as much time to get their air back and they don't get as hot as quick. Now when it comes summertime, you know, hell, sometimes I can only ride my horses for 20-25 minutes and they're done for the day. You know, I usually get up at 2 or 3 in the morning in the summertime so I can be done by 10 or 11 because it's so damn hot in Texas you can't get anything done after about 10 or 11 o'clock. It's too exhausting. So you got to give them air. You know, you're better off, I've learnt this over the years, you're better off sitting on one for 10 to 30 minutes and let them get their air back than keep riding them and they bow a tendon and now you got to sit on the sidelines for 8 months. So you either wait on them now and take the time, or they'll make you wait on them later on because they got injured. And I'm not saying every bowed tendon or strained tendon is because the horse is out of air, that would be ridiculous, but I would say 80% of torn tendons and bowed tendons and strains and ligaments is because they were overridden, because they were out of air and they kept being ridden, okay? So wait on them. Every time I stop him, I always do a little flex in here to soften the space up. As he gets broker, I won't do as much of it, but repetition, repetition, repetition. Consistency is your greatest ally in training a horse. Inconsistency is your greatest enemy. Good boy, Titan, I'm proud of you. Good boy. Don't forget to check out our next training session with Titan and the Method.